As it has turned out, August 9th, 2022 has been a day of very many surprises. Top on the list was the low voter turnout countrywide. Now, I have issues with the figures being thrown around for a very simple reason. You know, the 2013 and the 2017 presidential elections witnessed a lot of fiddling. So I don't think it is fair to compare what we are seeing now to either 2013 or 2017, because 2013 and 2017 are not real figures. Still, one cannot deny the fact that Kenyans did not make it in large numbers to vote. The voter turnout, in whichever way you look at it, is on the low side. Now, in my opinion, the number one reason for that, which I've not had anybody mention yet, is financial. Kenyans are going through some very hard times, and getting the cash to travel to vote, I believe, was an issue for millions of Kenyans who would have wanted to vote. Remember that traditionally, Kenyans have always registered as voters in their rural homes. And so, in my opinion, that is a major factor. It's a reflection of the very difficult times Kenyans are going through. But the biggest surprise of all was from the Mount Kenya region. You see, these financial issues are not a major factor for people in the Mount Kenya region. Why? Because the Mount Kenya region is very close to Nairobi. The costs involved in going home to vote or going to your rural area to vote are minimal. For instance, compared with somebody who comes from Western Kenya or the Rift Valley. But let us get to the meat of this. What does a low voter turnout in the Mount Kenya region mean? In one sentence, it means that the presidential bid of William Samoei Ruto has crashed and burnt on takeoff. That's really what it is. Because Ruto has relied very heavily on the Mount Kenya region. He has spent a fortune on the Mount Kenya region. His strategy has mainly focused on attacking President Uhuru Kenyatta and gaining sympathy, generating emotions in the Mount Kenya region. And then today what happens? Nobody turns up to vote. The voter turnout was very low by all standards in the Mount Kenya region. And therefore, even as the results trickle in, it is very easy to predict what kind of results we're going to get, and to do so very conclusively. But let me stick to the figures I've already seen, actual figures that have come in from various polling stations so far. What do they say? I'm not sure if you want to hear this, especially if you're not an Azimio supporter. Folks, I can officially announce that it is a landslide for Raila Amolo Odinga and Martha Karua. That's really what it is. UDA na Kenya Kwanza wamepelekwa shule ya siasa. Folks, that is the naked truth. And now I must ask, what happened to the scientific polls? The polls that showed us this was going to be a close race. Indeed, if you look at the international media today, they're all saying it's a hotly contested race that is being expected. And of course, the journalists were relying heavily on the scientific polls released. And I kept on saying on this channel, those polls are wrong. They don't reflect the reality. And what response did I get? Chris, did you really go to school? Huh? Which school did you go to, Chris? These things are scientific. Do you understand what scientific means? Oh yes, I'm sure many of you witnessed that right here on this channel. Even my fellow analysts came out and said the polls should be taken seriously. Of course, they're indirectly hitting out at me that I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm saying. I should respect science and scientific polls. But what really happened here? Let's take a moment to analyze and discover what happened here. I'll tell you what happened. What happened here was the Kenyan middle class. The loudest Kenyans are the Kenyans who can afford to be on social media. The Kenyans who can afford to be online. Even for a few hours a day. Those were the loudest. But you see, the vast majority of Kenyans can't afford that. The vast majority of Kenyans are out there hustling and struggling. They hardly have any platform. But they have the votes. And so you do a sampling of the Kenyan middle class. And the people you can reach on phone. And the people you can actually get to interview. Close to major towns in Kenya. What kind of results do you think you're going to get? Something very far from the reality. And in the next few hours, this will unfold very clearly for all Kenyans to see. I think Kenyans need to go back to pollsters and ask them what they mean, or what they meant when they told us that William Samoei Ruto was leading, and then Raila overtook him. What were the factors that caused that to happen? Because I don't understand. The way I understand Kenyan politics, the common man down there, who is not very easy to access, he's not online, he's not on Twitter, for instance. Those are the people with the votes. So tell me, explain to me so that I understand. What was this seesaw thing happening? I don't know, 54% today, tomorrow 60%, etc., etc. This is not the United States, my friends. This is Kenya. In Black Africa. Unajua Wakenya walisoma mpaka wakakuwa jinga. I keep on saying that. Because how people can be fooled into accepting the opinion of those people in Nairobi and in major towns in Kenya, as a general trend countrywide of how people will vote. Pengine sikuenda shule, but I find that very difficult to understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, the chickens have come home to roost. Yesterday I did a video and I told you that Raila Odinga and Azimio will win by a minimum of 60%. Now the figures I've seen so far are nowhere near 60%. They are nowhere near 60%. Okay? Let me not say anymore. And they are not on the lower side, by the way. Let us just wait for the results to start showing clearly, which should happen in the next few hours. But I just thought I should give you a heads up of what's happening, because many people are very anxious. Now, to be clear, I've gotten my information from people on the ground in polling stations, sample polling stations, right across the country. And I've done a very careful analysis based on what I was told has happened in those polling stations to come to the conclusion that I've come to. and the information that I've shared with you. And of course, I've combined all that with a few results that have trickled in. Yeah. And I have a very clear picture, which should be a clear picture for all Kenyans tomorrow. Folks, I repeat, it is a landslide. I think people will really be analyzing tomorrow and in the next few hours what happened in the mountain. And one thing that has come out very clearly, or one thing that will come out very clearly, is the political clout of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the Mount Kenya region. The famous quote, I believe it was from Professor Mutai Ngunyi, that Kikuyus can be rented but they cannot be purchased, comes to mind. How a political candidate who does not hail from the community and who does not fully understand the community can rely so heavily on that community to win the presidency just blows my mind. And how that candidate can try and do this by insulting mtu wa nyumbani, that is just totally mind-boggling for those who understand politics. I believe people remember the 2022 presidential elections as the election where somebody called Raila Amolo Odinga and his Azimio team took all of us to school, a school called the School of Politics, the school of understanding that politics is very deep. It is not the surface things that many Nairobians and many people on social media wanted us to believe it is. No. And I'm just repeating the things I've been saying on this channel for the longest time. Folks, tumepelekwa shule. But please, allow me to go back to analyze the trickling in results, so that I give you real figures in my next video, so that I analyze real official figures in the next video. But meanwhile, just remember you're in class. Pay careful attention, because everything we go through in life should teach us for the next time, because there's always a next time. There'll be another election in 5 years, and maybe we will all not be so cocky. And if we take the time to learn from this one, and if we take our time to pay attention, maybe, just maybe, we will be much better at analyzing the next one, and less quick to jumping to conclusions, and less gullible to people creating perceptions for us that are just a mirage. Until next time, this is Kshs. Kumekucha.